I married the same man 7 times. And 7 times, he left me for the same woman. But she wasn't a lover. She was his mother. The words still taste like salt on my tongue, like they've been soaked in every tear I tried so hard to swallow. For 15 years, I believed love could survive anything. I was wrong. Sometimes love isn't destroyed by betrayal or lies, but by a family wound so deep, it swallows everything around it. This is the story of how loving someone too deeply almost cost me my life, and how I finally learned to love myself instead. My name is Evelyn Hart, and if you're new here on Possible Hearts, welcome. I share stories, raw ones, complicated ones, the kind you only tell when the truth finally stops hurting. If you're watching this, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I promise you, this story won't be easy, but it might feel familiar in ways you never expected. I was 30 years old when I realized something most people don't learn until much later. You can lose yourself quietly, not with a scream, not with a dramatic collapse, just quietly. By 30, I had already buried 3 marriages, not because I cheated or stopped loving, not because someone betrayed me, but because something inside me had broken, or maybe had been broken for a long time. I could never put my finger on where it happened. I just knew I kept ending up alone. I was the patient wife, the perfect wife, the resilient wife, 3 different versions of myself, and somehow each one failed. Every divorce felt like peeling off a layer of skin. Eventually, I began to believe the only common denominator in every heartbreak was me. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I expected too much. Maybe I loved wrong. Maybe I wasn't enough. I remember sitting in my small apartment after signing the papers for my 3rd divorce. The place smelled like lemon cleaner because I'd been scrubbing the same countertop over and over, as if polishing it could polish away the shame sitting heavy in my chest. Rain tapped against the windows. My phone was silent, painfully, defiantly silent. And for the first time in my adult life, I said the words out loud. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I truly meant it. I wasn't going to chase love again. I wasn't going to rewrite myself to fit someone else's expectations. I was going to be alone, and I would learn to be okay with that. But life has a strange sense of timing. Because that same night, while I sat curled under a blanket, wiping mascara off my jawline, something happened that cracked open the quiet I was trying so hard to build. My phone buzzed. A single notification. A name I hadn't seen in more than a decade. Caleb Rivers.
My breath stopped. There are people you bury on purpose, not out of hate, not even out of pain, but because their memory feels too heavy to carry. Caleb was that person for me. My first love. The one I believed would be my last. The boy who kissed me like I was a promise and left me like I was a mistake. We were 20 when we fell apart. Or maybe we were too young to understand how broken things were underneath the surface. I just remembered him as the only man who ever made me believe in forever. Seeing his name again felt like someone had reached inside my chest and tapped directly on my heart. The message was simple. Evelyn, I heard about the divorce. I'm sorry. Are you okay? I almost didn't reply. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. But grief makes you reckless, and loneliness makes you brave. So I typed back. I'm fine. Why are you reaching out now? 3 dots. Blinking. Vanishing. Blinking again. Then, because I never stopped caring, my throat tightened. I shouldn't have replied. I shouldn't have opened that door. But something in me, something tired, something fragile, whispered that maybe this time would be different. Maybe we weren't 20 anymore. Maybe the things that broke us had softened with age. Maybe the universe was giving us a second chance. We talked for hours, then for days, then every night until sunrise painted the edges of my blinds. He sounded different, grounded, self-aware, softer. He told me he had grown, healed, matured. He told me he was sorry for every way he hurt me when we were young. He told me that losing me was the biggest mistake of his life, and I believed him. God help me. I believed him. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that the shadow that haunted him at 20 was still there, older, louder, stronger. A shadow with perfectly styled hair, pressed blouses, a crisp smile, and eyes that watched everything with unsettling precision. A shadow named Margaret Rivers. But I wouldn't meet her. Not yet. That moment was still waiting for me, hiding just around the corner, like a storm you don't see until lightning strikes at your feet. And when she came into the picture again, everything started to unravel.
When Caleb and I finally decided to see each other again, it felt like stepping into a memory I wasn't sure belonged to me anymore. We met at a little coffee shop downtown, the kind with mismatched chairs and Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling like warm fireflies. I remember choosing a table by the window, mostly because I needed an escape route. My hands trembled around the ceramic mug, steam curled upward, soft and ghost-like. What if he had changed too much? What if I had changed too little? What if this was a mistake? Then the door opened, and he walked in. Caleb Rivers, older, broader shoulders, scruffy jaw, but his eyes, those soft, tired, ocean blue eyes, were exactly the same. And just like that, I was 20 again. He saw me, froze for half a second, and then smiled. Not the polite smile you give someone you've missed in theory. A real smile, warm, familiar, unguarded, the kind that makes your ribs ache with nostalgia. When he sat down, he didn't speak right away. He just looked at me, quietly, as if counting the years on my face. He swallowed. You look like someone I shouldn't have let go. I laughed a shaky laugh. You said that when we were 20, remember? Right before you did let me go. He winced, but he didn't look away. I deserved that. There was something gentle about him now, something different, something grown. The old Caleb was restless, always running from something invisible, but the man sitting across from me, he was still, almost grounding. We talked for hours, just like we used to. The conversation flowed too easily, like slipping back into a warm bath you forgot you loved. He told me about his work, his small house, his attempts to build distance from the things that once controlled him. He told me he had been in therapy, that he'd finally confronted the parts of his past he was taught never to question. He said the words slowly, like they were fragile glass. He said, "I'm trying, really trying. I don't want to be that scared kid anymore." I believed him. Or maybe I needed to. After 3 failed marriages, after years of feeling unchosen, unwanted, unimportant, hearing him speak with such intention felt like balm on an old wound. You know, I used to think I wasn't enough. His head snapped up. "Evelyn." His voice cracked. "You were the one thing that was enough." Something inside me softened, dangerously. We walked outside when the sky had turned lavender. The spring air smelled like rain on asphalt. People passed around us, wrapped up in their own conversations, their own small worlds. And there we stood, suspended in the middle of it all. 2 people who used to belong to each other and maybe still did. "Can I see you again?" he asked. I should have hesitated. I should have thought about my pattern of fixing broken things that never asked to be fixed. I should have remembered that love, real love, isn't supposed to hurt this much, but I said yes.
Our second meeting was easier. Our third felt inevitable. And by the fourth, he kissed me, gently, hesitantly, like he was afraid I might disappear if he pressed too hard. That kiss, it felt like forgiveness and grief intertwined. Within weeks, we were spending all our free time together. We cooked dinners in my apartment, watched old movies with the volume too low, and walked along the river at night, talking about everything and nothing. He would touch my hand lightly as we walked. A graze, a reassurance, a tether. And for the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a threat, but signs, tiny cracks, began to appear. The first time came on a quiet Tuesday night. We were sitting on my couch, my legs draped over his lap. He looked relaxed, content. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his whole body stiffened. His jaw clenched, his shoulders tightened. The warmth drained from his face like someone had opened a door inside him and let the cold pour in. "Are you okay?" I asked. He nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just work stuff." But I saw the screen light up again. Mom. I didn't comment. I didn't want to push. I just tucked the moment into the back of my mind like a note I wasn't ready to open yet. The second sign came when we were out for brunch. A casual Sunday. Sunlight in his hair, my hand in his. He stepped away to take a phone call. It lasted 2 minutes. But when he returned, he was pale, almost frightened. He said, "I have to go." "Why? What happened?" He hesitated, eyes darting like he was searching for an explanation that wouldn't unravel him. She needs me." There it was. The first echo of the old Caleb, the one who lived his life reacting to someone else's emotions. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. People have complicated families, emotional bonds, unhealthy dynamics. Wounds they don't even recognize as wounds. I reminded myself to be compassionate, to be patient, to give love a chance. But that night, lying in bed alone, something gnawed at me, a whisper, a warning, a truth I wasn't ready to see fully yet. If I kept going down this path, I wasn't just reopening an old story, I was stepping back into an old wound. And that wound had a name I hadn't heard in years. Margaret Rivers. I should have known something was wrong when Caleb started apologizing for things I hadn't even noticed. Small things, random things, strange things. "Sorry I didn't text you back quicker. Sorry I wasn't as affectionate last night. Sorry I didn't compliment your new sweater. Sorry if I seemed distracted." Apologies layered on apologies like he was trying to outrun an invisible critic. But the thing that unsettled me most was that he said all of this with his eyes lowered, voice soft, like a child caught doing something wrong. It was the way he waited after apologizing, waited for my reaction, waited for a punishment I had no intention of giving. It was the look of someone trained to anticipate anger before it arrived. Still, I told myself he was adjusting, relearning love, relearning freedom, relearning me. Then came the night I finally heard her voice again. Wow. It was early summer, the kind of warm, sleepy evening where crickets hummed like soft background music through the cracked window. Caleb was cooking dinner in my kitchen. Something simple. Pasta with tomatoes and basil. I loved watching him cook. He moved like someone who found gentleness in small rituals. He was humming, laughing at something I just said. His shoulders relaxed, his posture loose. It was one of the few times I had seen him look entirely at peace. Then his phone rang. He didn't even check the screen. He just froze, mid-movement, as if someone had hit the mute button on his soul. After a beat, he reached for the phone, slowly, like it weighed 100 pounds. I glanced at the caller ID.
Mom. My stomach tightened. He answered, "Hey, Mom." His voice, God, it changed, softened, flattened, shrank. He turned away from me, but I could still hear her. "Caleb, are you busy? You didn't answer my text." Her voice was sharp, but coated in sugar, the kind of sweetness that cuts more than it comforts. "Oh, Caleb, you didn't answer my text. I was cooking," he murmured. "Cooking? At this hour? You know you shouldn't skip dinner with me on Wednesdays. You always forget how lonely it gets here." I didn't forget," he said, panic flickering in his tone. Evelyn and I, a sharp inhale from the other end. Not angry, wounded, performatively wounded. Oh, Evelyn, just the name. But the way she said it, like Evelyn was a stain she couldn't scrub out, made my skin prickle.
I busied myself pretending to slice a tomato, even though dinner was nearly ready. "Caleb," she said, in that slow, heavy way people use when they want guilt to drip through every syllable, "I don't feel well tonight. My chest feels tight. I might need you." His body tensed. "Do you need an ambulance?" he asked, alarmed. "No, sweetheart. I just need you." The silence that followed was suffocating. He closed his eyes. I saw his shoulders collapse inward, like a house folding under its own roof. "I'll come," he whispered. His mother didn't thank him. She didn't reassure him. She exhaled dramatically. "I knew you would. You always take care of me." When he hung up, he wouldn't look at me. "Caleb," I said gently, "you don't have to go if she's not actually sick. You can call a nurse, or—" "I have to," he whispered. "But I have to." There was something in his voice I didn't recognize. Something fervent, afraid, conditioned. He grabbed his keys, didn't kiss me goodbye, didn't even turn off the stove. He left like a man fleeing a crime scene. And I stood there, my kitchen filled with the smell of burning basil and the echo of a woman I had spent a decade trying to forget. Margaret Rivers. He didn't come back that night, or the next morning. I didn't want to be the kind of woman who checked her phone constantly, but I was. Every vibration made my heart leap. Every silence made it crack. When he finally texted the next afternoon, it was oddly formal. "Sorry, I disappeared. She needed me. I'll explain soon." But he didn't explain, and a week passed. A whole week of scraps of communication. A few short texts, no calls, no visits. I tried to be patient, to be kind, to remind myself that emotional wounds, toxic mother wounds, narcissistic parent scars, enmeshment patterns don't vanish just because you fall in love. But patience feels a lot like abandonment when the person you love is slipping through your fingers. Finally, after 9 days, he knocked on my door. When I opened it, he looked exhausted, eyes swollen, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes from a few days before. He stepped inside without speaking, sat on the edge of my couch, and put his head in his hands. "Caleb," I whispered, sitting beside him. "What happened?" He didn't lift his head. "She had a panic attack, a real one this time. Or I don't know if it was real. I just know that she said she'd pass out if I left." My heart ached for him, and for the version of me who used to believe love could fix anything. "Caleb," I said gently, "you can't be responsible for your mother's entire emotional world." He flinched, like I'd struck him. "You don't understand," he muttered. "I'm trying to understand." He stood suddenly, pacing. She told me if I keep choosing you, she'll have nothing left. She said I'm abandoning her. She said no one will take care of her when she gets worse." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't love. This was emotional manipulation.
This was unhealthy family dynamics at their worst. This was codependency polished into a virtue. Evelyn, he whispered, finally meeting my eyes, I'm scared. Of her? He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. He wasn't scared of her. He was scared of losing her approval, the only currency he'd been taught to live on. Then he said something that made my heart plummet, so fast I could barely breathe. I think we should slow things down. The room tilted. What do you mean? I whispered. He swallowed hard, voice breaking. I think I need to step back. He wouldn't say it, but I already felt it. He was leaving. Again.
He didn't say the word breakup. He didn't have to. The air in my living room shifted, heavy, metallic, like the atmosphere before a storm. Caleb, I whispered, please talk to me. Tell me what's going on inside your head. He sat back down, elbows on his knees, face hidden in his palms. His breathing was shallow, uneven. I'd seen panic before, but this wasn't panic. This was conditioning. Years, decades of being taught that someone else's needs mattered more than his own. I don't want to hurt you, he murmured. You're not, I lied, voice trembling. You're just scared. He finally looked up at me, and the agony on his face made something inside me collapse. He feels like he's being pulled apart. Like if he takes one step forward with you, she'll fall apart. And if he goes to her, he'll lose you. You won't lose me, I said. Not unless you walk away. He winced. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. Then don't walk, I whispered, reaching for his hand. He hesitated, then let me hold it. But his fingers were cold, detached, already slipping. We sat in silence, our intertwined hands a fragile peace offering between two worlds fighting over the same man. After a long moment, he said something so soft, I almost missed it. She told me she's the only one who's ever really loved me. A chill raced down my spine. That's not love, Caleb. That's control. He jerked his hand away as if burned. You don't understand her, he snapped. Not angry, but defensive, wounded. She's had a hard life. My father left. She raised me alone. She's sacrificed everything. And now she's asking you to sacrifice yourself, I said gently. He shook his head. No, she just needs me. The words were soft, but the devotion in them was carved deep. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. Caleb wasn't choosing between me and his mother. He wasn't choosing at all. He was obeying. He left that night, just like that. A quiet, agonizing exit, not slamming doors or harsh words, but the soft kind of leaving that hurts more because it's drenched in resignation instead of anger. I sat on the couch long after he drove away, listening to the refrigerator hum and the echo of a relationship that hadn't even had the chance to be whole. I didn't sleep, not the next night either. But on the third night, he came to my door again, except this time, he was different. His eyes were red, his cheeks blotchy, like he'd been crying for hours. He smelled like rain and cold air. His voice was wrecked. Evelyn, he whispered, I made a mistake. My heart thudded against my ribs. What do you mean? I shouldn't have left. I shouldn't have let her get inside my head. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He stepped inside without waiting for permission and wrapped his arms around me, holding me like I was the last place in the world he felt safe. I broke. Absolutely broke. You scared me, I cried into his shirt. You can't just disappear when things get hard. You can't let her dictate your life. I know. And I don't want to lose you again. I don't want to be that man anymore. Then he pulled back, cupped my face in both hands,
and said the words that shifted the world beneath me. Marry me. I froze. What? Marry me, he repeated, voice shaking. Not someday. Not when things settle. Now. I want to show you and myself that I can choose you. I want to do something big, something final, something she can't undo. My breath caught. This wasn't a sweet proposal. This was a plea, a desperate attempt to rewrite the script of his life. But love makes fools of the lonely, and I'd been lonely for far too long. Caleb, marriage is, I love you, he said, voice breaking, and I want you. I want a life with you. Please don't give up on me. A sob rose in my throat. Okay, yes. His forehead fell against mine, relief flooding his features. And for a brief, fleeting moment, I believed this was our turning point. Our wedding was small, a courthouse ceremony, 2 witnesses we barely knew, and a bouquet I bought on the way. But there was love there, trembling and hopeful. He cried when he said his vows. He kissed me like he meant forever. He held my waist like I was home. I thought we had done it. I thought we had broken the cycle. I thought the worst was behind us. But Margaret Rivers had not lost. She had simply gone quiet. 3 weeks into our marriage, I walked into our living room to find Caleb standing in the dark, staring at his phone. His shoulders were shaking. Caleb? I whispered. He didn't answer. He just handed me the phone, his hand trembling violently. On the screen was a message from Margaret. 6 words. 6 words that would shatter everything. If you don't come home now, I won't survive tonight.
I stared at the message on Caleb's phone, my heart sinking so fast it felt like my body couldn't keep up. If you don't come home now, I won't survive tonight. The words pulsed on the screen, black letters with a threat disguised as despair. A quiet, calculated desperation. My blood ran cold. Caleb, I whispered, this is manipulation. You know that, right? He shook his head instantly. Too fast. No, she wouldn't lie about something like this. She's been feeling dizzy all week. She told me yesterday she wasn't sleeping. What if something happens? What if she's lying? I said softly. What if this is just another way to pull you back? He backed away from me like I'd slapped him. You don't know her. I know unhealthy family dynamics. I know emotional manipulation. I know when someone uses their pain like a leash. I stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. Please, breathe, think. This isn't your responsibility. That is my mother, he snapped. Again, not with anger, but with terror. He looked like a man who'd been handed a live grenade. She raised me alone. She gave up everything. She has you wrapped around her finger, I whispered. His breath hitched. And that was the moment the wall slammed down between us. A wall made of guilt, childhood wounds, and a lifetime of being told he was responsible for another person's emotional survival. He grabbed his coat. Caleb, I pleaded. Stay. Just call her. Call an ambulance. I can't risk it, he said, voice cracking. Then let me come with you. He froze. For a moment, one fragile, agonizing moment, I thought he'd say yes. But instead, he whispered, no, she'll panic. She won't want company. Company. That was the word he used for his wife. Caleb, I said, barely breathing, you don't have to choose between us. But he shook his head like a man drowning. I already have. He left, without kissing me, without even turning back. The door clicked shut. A soft sound, but it felt like the crack of a gunshot. And just like that, 3 weeks into our marriage, I was alone.
That night crawled by 1 minute at a time. I paced, I sat. I cried. I prayed. I cursed. I stared at my phone until my eyes ached. I tried calling him once, then again, but each attempt went straight to voicemail. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Margaret's voice, syrupy, suffocating, omnipresent. You're the only one I have. You're all I have left. You know what will happen if you leave me. Toxic mother wounds leave shadows not even adulthood can outrun. By dawn, I hadn't slept for a second. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty, too fragile. Like even my breathing might shatter the walls. At 7 a.m., I finally received a text. She's stable. I'm staying with her for a few days. I'll explain later. Not love you, not I miss you, not I'm sorry. Just logistics, just guilt, just distance. I sat down on the cold kitchen floor and let the tears come. They weren't loud, they weren't wild. They were the kind that feel like a leak in the soul, slow and unstoppable. I had married him, believed him, trusted him, and within 3 weeks, he had walked out the door because his mother snapped her fingers. 3 days passed, 4, 5. On the 6th day, he called. His voice was low, hesitant, heavy. Evelyn, can we talk? I swallowed hard. Are you coming home? A breath. I don't know. Silence stretched like a wire between us. Finally, he said, she had another attack yesterday. Or maybe it wasn't an attack. I don't know. She says she feels worse when I'm not here. Caleb, she feels worse when she can't control you. He made a wounded sound. Please don't make this harder. I closed my eyes. I'm trying to help you see. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then, I think we moved too fast. Something inside me snapped. Softly, silently, like a thin thread. We're married. I whispered, you asked me to be your wife. I know. He choked out, I know. And I meant it. I didn't think she'd react like this. Caleb, I said, my voice barely holding steady. What are you saying? Another silence. Another knife. I think we should take some space. Space. Space within the first month of marriage. Space because Margaret Rivers demanded it. Are you leaving me? I asked quietly. He didn't answer, and his silence said everything.
I felt tears burn hot behind my eyes. If you walk away from this marriage just because she tells you to, we won't survive this cycle. He inhaled sharply. I'm not choosing her over you. Yes, I whispered. You are. His breath broke. And then, in a voice so small I barely recognized it, he said, I'm sorry. Click. Call ended. Just like that. My husband, my new husband, had left me. 3 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived in the mail, his handwriting on the front, my name written like a whisper. Inside, a note, a ring, and a petition to annul the marriage. My knees buckled. The world, my world, blurred. On the note, he had written only 6 words. I can't abandon her. I'm sorry. That was the first time Caleb left me, but it wasn't the last, because 3 months later, he showed up at my doorstep again, and he said the 5 words that would begin the cycle all over again. Evelyn, I still love you.
I didn't open the door at first, not because I didn't know who it was. I knew instantly. There's a certain kind of knock that belongs to someone who knows your heartbeat, someone who once memorized the rhythm of your breath, someone who has broken you in a way no one else ever will.
soft, hesitant, a man hoping for forgiveness, but expecting the opposite. After everything, the annulment, the abandonment, the silence, his return felt unreal. I stood frozen in my hallway, hand hovering inches from the doorknob. But then I heard his voice. "Evelyn, please, just open the door." And I did, because love makes you brave, and heartbreak makes you foolish. And I was both. Caleb stood on my porch, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. His hair was longer, messier, his shoulders slumped, his eyes, God, they looked hollow, like someone had taken a match to the inside of him and let the flame burn unchecked. "Hi," he whispered. I didn't say anything. He exhaled shakily, rubbing the back of his neck. "You look good." I paused, searching for something truthful but not cruel. "Tired," he nodded, accepting the honesty without flinching. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the envelope I'd mailed him, the annulment papers he had signed. He said in a soft voice, "I shouldn't have sent these back. I shouldn't have agreed so easily. I was scared." His voice cracked. "I've been scared my whole life." "Caleb," I whispered, "why are you here?" He swallowed hard. "Because I lost the only good thing I've ever had." His eyes lifted to mine, full of regret that seemed to swallow the air between us. "I miss you. I miss us. I miss who I was with you. And I want—" His breath shuddered. "I want another chance." I stepped back instinctively. "You left, Caleb, 3 weeks into our marriage. You didn't fight. You didn't try." He nodded. "I know I hurt you. I know I've hurt you over and over, but Evelyn..." Tears gathered at the corners of his eyes, stubborn, shimmering. "I don't want to live like this anymore, running between her and myself, between fear and love, between who I am and who she wants me to be." My throat tightened. "And what changed?" He looked down, voice barely a whisper. "I almost lost her." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" He said in a soft voice, "She got sick. Really sick, pneumonia, fever so high she was delirious. She kept asking for me, over and over, and I realized," his voice trailed off, pained, "I realized she'll never get better. She'll never stop needing me, not as long as I let her hold the power." "So you came back to me because she recovered?" "No," he shook his head firmly. "I came back because I realized something while she was sick." He met my eyes again, and the vulnerability in his expression nearly buckled me. I realized that if she had died, the last thing I would have remembered was leaving the woman I loved for a fear I couldn't name. Silence. Cold, aching silence. And that terrified me more than losing her. He whispered. I didn't know what to say. My heart throbbed in my chest like it wanted to run to him, but my mind, that bruised, cautious part, told me to stay still. "Evelyn, I love you," he said simply. I never stopped. I stepped away again, this time toward the living room, needing space to think. "You can't keep doing this." I know. "You can't run back and forth." I know. "You can't choose me today and her tomorrow." His voice was almost a plea. I know. "Then what makes you think this time is different?" He took a breath, a full one, brave and shaky. "Because I started therapy again. Real therapy. Not the kind I did to appease someone else. The kind that actually breaks you open." His eyes glistened. "And I'm learning things, Evelyn. Things about my childhood. Things I didn't understand before. Things that showed me I was living in a cage I thought was love." My heart lurched. "Caleb? But I'm done living like that," he whispered. "I want you. I want a life with you. I want to build something that's ours, away from the pain, away from her." I closed my eyes, fighting the tears. "I can't promise I won't struggle," he murmured, "but I can promise I'll fight
every day, for you, for us. When I opened my eyes, he was right in front of me, close enough to touch, close enough to smell the rain soaked into his hoodie, close enough that I could see the boy I once loved and the man I still wanted buried inside him. And then he asked the impossible, "Marry me again." I inhaled sharply. "Caleb," he held up both hands, as if surrendering. "Not today, not tomorrow, but soon, when you're ready, when you believe I mean it. You don't understand what that did to me, being abandoned like that, 3 weeks after saying I do. I know. And if I have to spend the rest of my life proving I won't disappear again, I will." I wanted to say no. I wanted to protect myself. I wanted to walk away from the cycle. But love has a gravity of its own. And Caleb, damaged, tender, hopeful, was a planet I'd never stopped orbiting. So I said the words that would begin the second chapter of our tragedy. "Okay, we can try again." His relief was immediate, overwhelming. He pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was something fragile and sacred. And for the second time, hope felt real. We remarried 6 months later. A small countryside chapel, a few close friends, no announcement to his mother, not until after the ceremony. He slipped the ring onto my finger again, whispering, "This time, I won't leave, I swear." And for a moment, I believed him. But Margaret had learned from the first marriage. She'd learned how to pull him back more quietly, more subtly, more effectively. Because 3 weeks after the wedding, almost exactly the same length of time, Caleb received a phone call, a whispered plea, a practiced whimper, a carefully timed crisis. "Caleb, something's wrong. I can't breathe." And this time, he didn't even look at me before he walked out the door.
The second time Caleb left, he didn't slam the door. He didn't argue. He didn't cry. He didn't even hesitate. He just went. No explanations, no promises, not even a glance over his shoulder. It was the quietest exit of my life and somehow the one that echoed the loudest. And maybe the worst part was that I saw it coming. I felt it building the way you feel a migraine coming hours before the pain hits. The air around him had shifted in the days leading up to that call. Tight, crackling, fragile, like he was bracing himself for something he was too afraid to say out loud. Margaret's influence had grown stronger after our second wedding, more subtle, more poisonous, more strategic. She no longer used dramatic declarations or blatant guilt. She used soft sighs, lingering pauses, faked weakness, a barely audible, "I just miss you, sweetheart," whispered through the phone. She learned she didn't need threats, just vulnerability, because Caleb never learned how to tell the difference between need and manipulation. And so when her call came, that pathetic, wavering, perfectly timed, weaponized voice, everything inside him snapped back into place like an old bone resetting into its painful, familiar alignment. "Caleb, something's wrong. I can't breathe." He didn't ask questions. He didn't check in with me. He didn't consider calling 911. He just grabbed his keys and left, leaving me in the doorway of our tiny new home, the house we'd chosen together because it was far enough away that we could finally have peace. Peace? That house never stood a chance. Hours passed, then a day, then 2. We didn't return. Again. The pattern was unmistakable and unbearable. On the 3rd morning, I called him. He answered with a whisper. "Hey, just that. Flat, detached, distant." "How is she?" I asked. Though what I meant was, "Why haven't you come home?" "She's okay." A pause. "She says she feels safer when I'm here." I closed my eyes, breathing slowly through the truth.
She feels safer when she controls you, I said quietly. He didn't deny it. He didn't agree either. I'll come home soon, he said, though even he didn't sound convinced. When? I whispered. A long silence stretched between us, taut as a rope. I don't know. Something inside me cracked. Not a sudden break, but a long, slow splinter running right down the middle. Caleb, I said, voice trembling despite every effort to sound composed. Why did you marry me again if you weren't ready to choose me? I did choose you, he insisted, but the words rang hollow. I didn't think things would get bad again. I thought she'd handle it differently this time. Because we stayed quiet about the wedding? Because I wasn't ready for her to react like that. She told me she was scared. She told me she was alone. She told me she needed me. And what about me? I whispered. His silence answered for him. A week, then 2. We barely spoke. Every day he sent a single text. She's not stable yet. Trying to get things under control. I'll explain when I can. Explain what? Explain how he'd let fear pull him back into the same pattern? Explain how a grown man could become a ghost in his own marriage? Explain how love could feel so much like emotional abandonment. But explanations were never the problem. Courage was.
The 7th night, I finally broke. I drove to Margaret's house, a small, perfectly groomed suburban home with white shutters and a wreath too cheerful for the misery it housed. The porch light was on, illuminating the welcome mat that seemed ironic now. I knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. Margaret Rivers stood before me, elegant, as always, wearing a pale blue cardigan and a carefully composed expression that didn't match the chaos she created. "Oh," she said coolly. 11. I swallowed hard. "Is Caleb here?" Before she could answer, I heard him call from inside, "Mom, who is it?" Then he appeared, tired, unshaven, wearing faded sweatpants and a t-shirt that smelled like lavender detergent and captivity. His eyes widened. 11? I asked. "Can we talk?" He glanced nervously at Margaret, who raised an eyebrow with a faint, knowing smirk. "You can talk here," she said. I stared at her. "No, we need privacy." She folded her arms, but didn't move. Caleb hesitated, torn, frightened. 11, I whispered. "Please." Finally, he stepped outside, closing the door behind him. But the door didn't click shut. It stayed slightly ajar, left open on purpose. Her way of reminding him she was listening. He didn't notice. Of course he didn't. 11, he said softly. "You shouldn't have come here. If I didn't come, we'd still be pretending things were okay." He looked down, jaw tight. "She's been really fragile. And I haven't?" My voice broke. "Caleb, I'm your wife." His shoulders sagged. I know, and I hate myself for hurting you, but I can't leave her alone like this." "She isn't alone," I said gently. "She has doctors, neighbors, a therapist, the whole world. She only trusts me," he whispered. "That's not trust," I said gently. "It's emotional enmeshment. It's codependency. He shook his head violently. "Don't use those words. You don't understand." "Yes," I said, stepping closer, tears burning. "I do. I understand that she's your mother. I understand that you love her. I understand that you feel responsible for her pain. But Caleb, you are drowning, and I am drowning with you." He closed his eyes, and I saw the war happening inside him. Love on one side, fear on the other. A childhood wound pulling him from beneath the surface. Finally, he whispered the sentence that would mark the end of our second marriage. "I can't leave her. Not right now." I felt the world tilt. "And what about us?" I breathed. His voice cracked. "I don't know how to choose between you." My heart shattered, not because he didn't love me, but because he didn't love himself enough to choose the life he wanted. Then, like a needle slipping into a wound, Margaret's voice drifted through the cracked door. "Caleb, sweetheart, I think I'm feeling lightheaded again." He flinched. I watched it happen. The choice, the reflex, the conditioning, the collapse. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and he went back inside. The door closed between us with a soft, final click, and it felt like the sound of my heart breaking. He didn't come home after that. Not for weeks. Not for months. And when he finally did, it wasn't to stay. It was to ask me for forgiveness. And, God help me, for another chance.
Caleb didn't come back for almost a year after the second marriage ended. Not a text, not a call, not a birthday message, not a hint of closure. Just silence. Thick, humming silence that filled every corner of the house we once shared. During that year, I learned to rebuild myself in small ways. Not with some dramatic transformation, not with overnight courage. Just breath by breath. I planted herbs in the kitchen window. I repainted the living room a soft sage green. I bought a new comforter because the old one still smelled faintly like his cologne. I let myself cry when I needed to and laugh when I least expected to. I relearned the shape of my own loneliness and, for the first time, discovered it wasn't something to fear. It was space, breathing room, a quiet place where I could hear my own thoughts again. And then, 11 months after he closed the door on our second marriage, he knocked on it again. I opened it before I could stop myself. Caleb stood there, older, thinner, exhausted in that quiet, hollow way of someone who has spent too long carrying other people's weight. "Caleb," he said softly. My heart clenched, but something deeper inside me stayed still, steady. "What do you need, Caleb?" He swallowed. "You. I need you." I didn't react. He took a shaky breath. "She passed out 2 months ago. Collapsed. They ran tests. It wasn't serious, just stress. But it scared me. Scared me enough to start therapy again, for real this time. My therapist said something that broke something open inside me. I waited. She said, 'You don't know how to live unless someone is falling apart.'" He lifted his eyes, filled with raw honesty. She was right. "And what about me?" I asked quietly. "What about my falling apart, my heart breaking?" His jaw trembled. "I know I destroyed you. I know I've hurt you more than anyone ever should, but I need to tell you something, Evelyn." "Go on," he whispered. "It wasn't that I didn't love you. It was that I was conditioned my entire life to believe that loving you was betrayal, that choosing my own happiness was a sin, that my mother's needs came before my own heartbeat." A lump rose in my throat. Not grief, exactly, but recognition. He continued, "She told me things when I was little, things I'm only now realizing weren't true. She told me my father left because he chose another woman. She said men who choose their wives over their mothers always get punished. She called it family loyalty, but it was fear. It was control. It was manipulation." He covered his face with both hands. "She trained me to be her lifeline, and I thought that meant I had to sacrifice every other part of myself." "Caleb," I whispered, "I know."
He lowered his hands, eyes shining with tears. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to take me back. I need you to know I'm fighting it. For the first time in my life, I'm fighting it." I breathed slowly, feeling that old ache tug at me. But this time, it didn't dominate me. It didn't swallow me whole. It didn't own me anymore. "Caleb," I said, gentle but firm, I loved you with everything I had. I gave you every version of myself, patient, perfect, resilient. But I can't do this again. I can't marry you an 8th time. I can't lose myself trying to save someone who won't save themselves first. He closed his eyes, a tear slipping down his cheek. So this is goodbye, he whispered. No, I shook my head softly. This is clarity. He swallowed hard, nodding slowly as if trying to accept a truth he wished he didn't have to hear. I stepped closer and touched his arm lightly. I don't regret loving you. I regret thinking it was my job to fix wounds I didn't create. I regret believing that if I worked hard enough, I could become the woman who finally made you stay. But the truth is, my voice softened, breaking just slightly. You didn't leave because you didn't love me. You left because you were never taught how to choose your own life. The words hung between us like a delicate, painful truth. He breathed out a shaking, defeated exhale. I'm sorry, Evelyn, for everything. I know, and I hope someday you learn to choose yourself, really choose yourself. He nodded, turned, walked away slowly, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't chase him. I didn't crumble. I didn't beg. I just watched him go and felt something powerful unfurl quietly inside my chest. Peace. Life after Caleb wasn't glamorous or dramatic. It was simple. Small joys, slow mornings, cups of tea in silence, books read cover to cover, walks by the river that didn't carry ghosts anymore. I built a life that didn't revolve around being chosen. I built a life that revolved around me. And one night, sitting on my porch as the sun set behind the trees, I finally understood something I wish I'd known years earlier. For years, I tried to become the woman who could save a man who never knew how to save himself. The truth? Love isn't about how many times you start over. Love is about knowing when not to. I didn't end up alone. I ended up free. Thank you for listening to my story on Possible Hearts. If it touched you in any way, please give this video a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from tonight? Until next time, real stories, real hearts, real possibilities.